there is every reason to have a higher bar in terms of what those amenities look like, what that public space looks like. This is the type of scenario we want to go in with those design guidelines. References out now, Loza Park is gem within our downtown. Like that's the level that we want to be seen throughout the city, throughout the.
So at this point, we'd like to hear from council, also from.
Well, let me talk to our director, and hey, you introduced yourself somewhere recently. You've been here about 18 minutes or so, or so maybe we're up to about a relative 25 minutes now. And I wish we could do a rewind, and when the words 785 units came out of your mouth, spit that out. We've clearly heard no more. And look, I know that with land rights and the natural progression of the population, and to a certain extent, for some folks that are saying that it's not in my backyard, we have relative newcomers now complaining about there too. Well, you don't get to complain because you're one of the newcomers. If I had my druthers, we would develop Old City Hall site with little or no units. And I kind of came here today with the thought, and I was on one of your slides, that council, when we could all hash out what were absolute out of the realm of discussion for, and I think it's easy to figure that out, and kind of, put our wish list in a box. Make the analogy to, it's kind of like a Cub Scout or a Girl Scout project where they just randomly throw stuff in boxes and hand it to the kid and say, use your imagination to go make something with what we've thrown in this box. So I kind of, along those lines, that we would fill a box with our wish list and advertise that and see what imaginative concepts came back from those in the business. And I've said it publicly before, and I'll say it now. Round numbers, it's been appraised at $1 million an acre. Let's just use that as a baseline. Personally, I'm willing to give up price in exchange for fewer or no units. If someone wants to bring us something that they feel is financially viable, that fits our vision, I'm willing to consider price adjustments. We've got that $1 million an acre baseline. Now, higher end, luxury, either market rate units, whether it be purchase or rental, that's not an absolute deal killer. I kind of make the analogy that and again, with the caveat that it's not coming out of the ground yet, the estate companies came in and they were fine at 15 units per acre. So when we're talking about 50 to 70 units an acre, my mind cannot grasp that when someone came in and agreed to do market rate units at about 15 in an acre for the last 16 months, 18 months or so. So, I think we all alluded to it earlier. We want some entertainment component. We all want a hotel, I think, with room for at least 800 people in a conference or party event venue. And I think that we're willing to consider, that's implicit. We all get the rooftop, the Ghost of Guzman's here with that is an amenity. And it could be on a lower scale on other buildings. Implicit in these conversations is that with some unique architecture that will stand the test of time, not the trendy stuff that we're seeing in other places. So, I come back to, what would we like to, in a perfect world, what would we like to see there? What's going to supplement, let's say the crown jewel of that, the anchor of this redevelopment would be that hotel, and someone would come in and do that, and then we deal with the additional height. Obviously, a 6-story hotel is not viable at the level, the caliber of amenities that we want. So, with that, I'll fling open the doors for my elected colleagues to start throwing stuff in the box.
Yeah, I think, if I may, everything that you presented is what we've heard by expert after expert after expert. So there was nothing wrong with information in your presentation. But it's the same calculation, same formula that everyone is using. And I think Homestead is not, we don't want to be like everywhere else. So we need to find a way, find a new formula to develop the attraction, develop the things to do, the things that we want on that wish list. We need to find a formula to get it done without the density or very low density. I don't think you were here yet, but we had a discussion about even though 6 stories is code for commercial, we don't want to see anything over 4. So I think that's going to be your cap, not your minimum, at least for the current workshops and the discussions moving forward. So try to think outside the box on how we can get that done, and that I think is going to be the real challenge as we invite these developers to bring us a design and a concept that's going to work. And I agree, we might have to be beat on price, but I definitely never wanted to have a homeowners association on government property. So that was out of the picture for me. But I did always support having a legacy project where we could have continued revenues year after year as a landlord. But I'm hearing from the experts that the rentals are on the downside. What I would also want to avoid is that if we do sell these into condos, that that they actually live here and that they're not just turning it into more rentals, and so you have a higher investment concentration. But I would assume that they would have a higher caliber tenants and that they would have more disposable income regardless if they are being sold at higher market rates.
What is so the 4-unit, or rather the 4-story cap? What is the wish list?
So definitely connectivity to the downtown so that it's complementary. The walkability, some kind of combination of a outdoor retail mall shopping experience with outdoor dining, art galleries, a lot of nods to what we already have pride in agricultural, our speedway, making it a hub for just being able to connect to the other opportunities in and around the Homestead area. So a lot of the stuff that we've already seen in our concepts that have been brought to us, but without the residential.
So is that side in your mind a continuation of downtown, or is it distinct from downtown?
I think it's an arm to the downtown, so that you can, whether you start in downtown or you start at Old City Hall, you can get to the other place easily, whether it's through a freebie, the trolley, or a walking bike path.
But I need more amenities.
Amenities,
Amenities
supplementary, not duplicative. Okay. But I don't think you can have enough restaurants.
Okay.
So, with the exception of the restaurants and the retail, I guess in terms of the overall concept and the feel, it should flow. It shouldn't be like a sore thumb sticking out in the middle of the heart of the city. And I would love to see connectivity to the other side of this one to Harris Field. If there's any way to kind of make that look and make that traffic pattern where you could maybe be with your family at a baseball game and then walk over and have dinner at Old City Hall site. So making that kind of easy. You don't have to drive to the other side.
So
I guess I'll go now.
Yeah, as the presentation started, the first thing I thought to myself is, why do we need residential there? So is there a purpose for that? Is it because the developers say they need it, or is it just a ploy to have density, right?
Is it a must-have component?
Yeah, is it a must-have? And I don't know that it is or it isn't. I'm hearing rumors now that the developer who was doing the Florida City one, where the old packing house was, is no longer doing the mixed-use component. They're only doing the residential component. And that's how it starts. And so I think that our City Hall property should be a legacy property for the city. Me and the mayor may not agree on how we sell the property or
The financial aspect.
the aspect of it, or in my perception, it was a 99-year lease program where we and I think you can verify this, as that property develops, the city doesn't get to enjoy any of the tax revenues that would come from that because it's a CRA property, right?
No.
So property tax revenues.
It's in the CRA,
Uh-huh.
so it would be beneficial, assuming CRAs aren't effectively abolished in the legislature,
Right.
and that's a very distinct possibility.
Right.
But no, it could be beneficial to the CRA,
To CRA.
however it's developed, whether it's a lease or a sale.
But it wouldn't be beneficial to the general fund.
Well, in the longer picture, it would. Eventually, the theory.
Let the finance director chip in first before we veer off.
Because of the CRA.
So none of it goes to operating. None of it goes to the operating fund.
Only with their name.
Right. So if we lease the property,
Then you get income.
it would come to the general fund, and then the property tax revenues that were created from that would go to the CRA. So that's a win-win if we do the lease part. Right. So I just wanted to put that out for that. But yeah, but that's a temporary thing. I mean, if you do a long-term 99-year lease, and for those that weren't here when we had the original negotiations with Related and the other group, they were offering us from the start $1 million a year on a land lease and then compounding it over time. So my thought process on that aspect of it was that if we do a land lease, we can capture that general fund revenue. It helps the chief with police. It helps Parks and Recs with keeping Parks and Recs up and running. And I think we also designated the proceeds to go to infrastructure, road work,
To that trust fund.
and the trust fund. So we'd have to figure out all those different avenues. But I think in that aspect, it would be the financing that I would think would be more advantageous to the city would be to a win-win for both the RA and the general fund. But as far as amenities and stuff go at the property, and I think we kind of agree on this, it's a destination. We want it to be a destination property, right? So you talk about amenities, right? Where's the nearest miniature golf course? Right? You mentioned Topgolf. I don't think that property is large enough to put a Topgolf on it. I think Topgolf needs 10 acres. So I'd love to put it there, but I don't think they're going to go there. Maybe 5 acres, but 6 acres is what Topgolf uses. All right, so that would be a third of the property. So maybe that's
Potentially to the west of Flanagan's.
yeah.
Going off toward the power plant,
It could be, and
where
then
the armory was.
it'd be interesting if they would invest in that.
Topgolf, so bring it.
So you have Topgolf, you have miniature golf, ice skating, or roller skating, and now the property takes on a life. It has something there. But in one of the drawings that you showed, where the VA clinic would potentially go, looked like that Northeast First Road was eliminated.
Correct.
So we're going to,
that right away.
and then I know there's going to be some environmental issues on that property on the other side. Because
Depending on the use.
it was the old gas station or something a long time ago. So the hotel convention
Convention center in the must-have.
is crucial, I think. to the area. There's nowhere you can go with more than 200 people in our city. Nowhere. So I think that's crucial as well. And any other ancillary, like,
Convention Center in that site, do you envision it there, or do you envision it more east?
well, it was originally a part of the original related concept.
Okay. That was part of our, I think our night.
The very first conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you listen to folks in the sports industry, most of their complaints is that the city's speedway, which is the tracks, is way out of accessibility to the Turnpike or US 1. So pushing a potential convention center to the east will run the risk of not being successful as
In the east already. We need something quality.
something down here at this site is more palatable and it has easy access to the Turnpike, to the US.
I'll give you that.
And Chrome Avenue.
Chrome Avenue.
The iconic building on that intersection.
And it doesn't sit on the corner. I mean, you could put in the back
Well,
part,
wherever it sits.
wherever it goes. So, you know, that would be kind of what my vision would be, because now then you put the ancillary restaurants in there, and then you've got a whole area. I mean, you could always, somebody could throw an arcade in there, somebody could throw a laser tag place in there. You know, you can do a lot of different things that attract families there. And then by day it's that, and then by night you create a pub crawl type of situation for adults, right? They want to have live music. They want to go sit outside in the wintertime, especially, you know, outdoor cafe type thing, where it brings all these different amenities all together, where it's by day more family oriented, and then by night it turns into more an adult attraction, and it begins to live and breathe. So that to me is what I think my vision would be of that property, is that excitement. The Flanagan's there is going to be another anchor. I mean, 12 to 15,000 patrons a week coming through the doors. I did the numbers, and I was like, there's no way that happens. But it's only 160 people an hour. That's not bad. I mean, you can do that in a 12-hour
An
day.
8,500 square foot restaurant.
Yeah.
I was blown away by that number.
Just the fact that that's there. Everything else we do in that area that adds to the entertainment value of the Flanagan's is just going to create a destination location. So I'm all for the ice skating, trust me. I would love to. I used to ice skate as a kid in South Florida at I think it was up by the High Line Fronton. There used to be an ice skating rink up there. You remember? There was.
I remember it, yeah.
It was a long time ago. I broke my ankles and all that stuff, and we had one down here prior to Hurricane Andrew. Right? We had it at it was an ice skating rink. It was
Well, they turned it into
the church.
lodge, and now it's a church.
Now it's a church.
Yeah. Yeah.
That big building back there. So,
Well, at one time for example, we were contacted by Urban Air Adventure. And their issue was they would have preferred an existing building. They needed really high ceilings.
yeah.
Again, there's all that potential. Now, back to your point on the financial analysis, we're going to have the luxury of, well before this moves out into the public realm, we're going to know the future of CRAs in Florida.
Another thing.
And we'll have the opportunity to take a look at that and see, you know, if they continue, maybe a lease. If they're not continuing, maybe another scenario.
Yeah. You know, and we have I call it the mini bowling alley over there on Chrome Avenue. But you can't even get a lane at Bird Road anytime.
Yeah.
You can't. So even something like that, you put all those components in one spot, and guess what you got? On social media, they're going to say you've got a traffic nightmare, right? In my opinion, you have amenities that have to leave the city of Homestead to take place, take part in. So
Across the whole economic spectrum.
exactly.
And I kind of envision more of, and I hate to say it this way because I don't want to diminish it, more of upscale chain type restaurants at Old City Hall with the specialty mom and pop stuff
That's what I want.
downtown.
I want to see an Irish pub pop up somewhere. I want to go get bangers. Why not have to drive all the way through to get some bangers and some shepherd's pie?
And a black and tan.
They're all the artisanal.
Bring me a Greek restaurant, right? Bring me a gyro and some lamb.
So, Mayor, inadvertently, you answered what was going to be my question. I think, obviously, have a strong thought on downtown and Chrome and how that becomes. So, am I hearing it's a clear distinction, though, that what we would see and anticipate on the former city website would be more the larger brand, larger name, which you might find elsewhere, but becomes a destination here. We are good recommending or recognizing downtown as our historic Main Street, and then we just really focus on that strong connectivity.
The specialty type stuff. And again, kind of duplicating the opportunity for outdoor dining, drinking, and entertainment
Yes, exactly.
on Chrome, but, you know, a whole different ambiance, yeah.
Kevin, I would like for you to opine for a minute, and if you look at your concession hotels, Thomas, based on what you see in other cities, what are other complementary elements that we might want to consider, the council might want to consider, and any high-level thoughts as it relates to the correlation between this and Francisco?
Sure, we can talk about that. If you can go to also scenario 2, because I want to talk a little bit about the commercial. So I left that out of the feasibility piece. When we did the rental analysis on the models, the one that feasibly
Rental units. Rental units,
the
okay.
one we liked that really looks the best was this one, where the red is the commercial, because the commercial performed very well. And this one had the most commercial. This one was at 90,000 square feet compared to about 70. We'd still be cautious about not over retailing it, at least through a phase process or something, let it get absorbed. But it did perform the best. So if I think about that, and then I think about hotel use instead, we've done a lot of research into hotel feasibility here, and we see some different, I think we see about 4 different areas that we think you could have feasible hotel. A couple of smaller boutique style, more in downtown, something more eco-friendly and related. I think there is a resort and a destination type component that could be out by the Speedway, but it's not a convention hotel, it's not a conference. That should be in near the greater downtown area. What they're looking for, the key there is not so much the financial feasibility. We can pencil that out and see that those concepts can work. The key is really the market feasibility and the hotel operators seeing the potential of what they could do. And so there's some different things that we could do there. We just actually teamed with and were selected to build a convention headquarters hotel in Covington, Kentucky. We've been going through that process from the developer side, really kind of understanding what are the different things that we're looking for there. Now they're building out of downtown. We've got a very active downtown that's going to be proximate. We have a Cincinnati Convention Center going under construction for years. It's a piece. But the key thing that they're going to say is, what do I have that my guests can walk to? What can my guests walk to? That's going to be the key question that the hotel operator. So the more that, so that's, I think, Jared, where that connection to Chrome comes in. The different things, I mean, the use ordinance, all of those other things that we've talked about here for downtown, and that becomes part of that answer. And then just understanding the nuances of, again, every developer, every hotelier, they're going to have a very different model. They're going to have their own unique model. So once you get to that point, understanding what those individual needs are going to be, it's going to kind of be key to making sure that we're able to meet, to address those concerns and requirements that they don't have. But that's going to be it. The number one question is, what can my guests do? You have the other things that we always talk about, the proximity to everybody is key, as well as just what we show in the market is the severe gap of hotel stock.
And I think we're kind of kidding ourselves to think that if we build stuff on US 1, that people are going to walk to Chrome Avenue, especially during the summertime. So I think, I mean, once we get this whole thing put together, there could be a simple transportation trolley that simply went from Old City Hall property, Chrome Avenue, Washington, Flagler, back to City Hall. It was a 20-minute loop that could move people around and around and around as this whole thing develops. Because I really think that if you think people are going to walk from City Hall property to Chrome Avenue, I think you're mistaken.
I mean,
That, but I mean, you're walking down these sidewalks, there's nothing attractive there.
Yeah.
You're by a supermarket, you're walking by a fire, or,
Almost an industrial area.
yeah, I mean, it's nothing,
Down Flagler.
yeah, and Flagler has no sidewalks on it, so you'd have to build and construct those things too, so.
I would like to suggest that, and certainly defer to the manager. To you, Councilman Avila, I know you've heard kind of what we recommended today a few different times in the past, and it's got the model. That's why we bring it forward. We want to shift gears. I think that's fine. We do have to, we've talked about being mindful of poor downtown and Chrome. And so to your point, Council Member, what I would like to then suggest as we look at this is, let's go broader than just this site. If this is going to become that entertainment destination, you should be thinking in this process then, what does that connectivity look like to downtown? How does this relate to those broader roadway network modifications, to that shuttle system, to where are we also making then that coordinated investment in some of our downtown businesses so that we're really trying to take advantage of both investments at the same time.
And I think, keep in mind that you have between the old City Hall site and the Crum Avenue, you have Miami-Dade College, you have a high school, you have the J.D. Red Park. So you have these little opportunity areas where they will travel either by car or walk to one of these other options. They might go to Crum Avenue, they might go to the old City Hall site. But the goal is to get them to stay in that area, spend their money in that area, and not just go home.
Hotel guests can go to our new pickleball courts.
One of the interesting something as it relates to this, and the deputy city manager has brought this up a few times now in our own conversations. You do own enough property in enough areas to keep that interest for
Activated.
perhaps trying to go in those incremental segments, which is a positive.
I also want to add, if you guys don't mind, I went and visited Fifth Avenue, Naples. Remember that trip? That is kind of what so beautiful. I would love to see Crum Avenue kind of take on that livelihood. Whereas the old City Hall site would be kind of like a combination of the West Palm Beach related city place merged with what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see the success of the 300 units that are going up across the street from Baptist as a market rate rent luxury apartment complex. Because something like that might be suitable for this property as well. If they can be successful there, and they're bringing in five restaurants.
Horizontal.
Yeah, if they can be successful in doing their thing there, obviously we could attract somebody to do similar there if we needed to do the residential component.
With that, if they needed that incentive.
Right.
And a project like that helps validate the scaling of the market.
Right.
One thing I would say about the public realm is sort of the distances. The distance from the old City Hall site to Losner Park is essentially the distance from the Ritz-Carlton at Collins and Lincoln to the movie theater at the West End and Lincoln Road. It's just a matter of the scale that you're going through and the physical conditions that you're going through. And is it inviting? That's going to get a term. Or
And kind of related to all this, and since we're in the sunshine, I'll throw this out and stick a pin in property rights and vested rights, and setting aside the open door of live local even as it exists now. For my taste, understanding that whatever we do, live local can go. If somebody chooses to do a live local project, enter the downtown, they can do 6 stores.
The current market.
Currently.
That's 31.
Well, 30. Yeah. That's the, generally because 30 is 30 units the acre is our benchmark is established in Homestead Gardens. So we can file that under no good deed goes unpunished. And we'll probably need to get those, and I guess we've got 25 in other areas. We really need to know what our live local exposure is. But there are folks who are going to want to come and develop and redevelop in downtown outside of Live Local. And I say all that to say this, I'd like us to consider and get legal, and not today, just throwing it out there, on lowering the height for everything else to 4. Like, you know, for this community and what we've heard in the charrette and what we heard last week, you know, other than extraordinary circumstances like a hotel or to put the units in, I don't think folks really want to see a lot more than 4. Now, a nice hotel at, you know, 9, 12, whatever, that's a different story. But just as a general rule, and I think anything more than 4 ruins the ambiance of a traditional downtown, of our traditional downtown.
Yeah, because that's where Kevin was talking about the boutique type,
Yeah.
you know, hotel, motel, whatever they are, would be more in that than would be in a larger scale conference, you know, convention center type thing, kind of like the Redland Hotel, so
Right.
the boutique type hotel. So, you know,
And given what existed when Live Local was enacted, if someone does a Live Local, we all just have to understand that it can be 6. But, you know, again, another discussion for another day that kind of dovetails with what we've talked about today on general scope and scale, but understanding that, you know, we take Old City Hall as a blank slate. We can say whatever we want. We can impose whatever's viable for that. Councilman Davis?
Well, I mean, certainly I'm in concurrence with what I've heard. I mean, you guys have so much more experience in this matter. You've been talking about it, you know, well before my arrival on the council. Completely in agreement. And without restating those things, I would say, please don't give up on the VA clinic. We've been very aggressively pursuing that thing, and I get it. It's a parcel that is valuable piece of ground, you know, and it's very easy to say, we'll put this thing there instead. It is, it's absolutely essential to our veteran community, but it's also an anchor for that property because they will be pulling people into that clinic once we finally have a clinic to go to. And they'll be pulling people from the Keys and from Kendall into our area. And
I have my full support, and that was a given.
And I'm okay with that too. Have we contacted VA and said, hey, if we do this, will you come? In other words,
it's already been done.
That's several conversations.
Yeah. He's been, I'll tell you, Jimenez has been a great champion for this. He really has.
That's like an instant lease for somebody, right?
Yeah,
we don't build the building,
yeah.
and they're gonna. That's a tenant that will never go away. It's like renting the post office in your building, right? They don't ever leave. You know.
So the intention is not for the city to build anything for us.
No, I get it. But the fact that a developer would, what are you going to do that for? You can put a VA hospital in there. We've already negotiated everything. You build it, they're coming. You know,
and that's what we're hoping to do. The congressman has been very helpful with that. I called up Alex about a week ago, his chief of staff, and they're still moving in that direction. The VFW also is getting more aggressive, more active. No, aggressive is not the word. Yeah, they're getting. It's our clinic. Get on it. And so I'm still supremely hopeful that that's going to happen because there is a need, and you can quantify the need, and we can do it. So please keep it there. I know I would be tempted to say, well, look what else we could put in that spot. So let's keep that VA clinic there. Let the political process go. My goal, you know, there's lots of different ways to get funding for this hospital. It doesn't have to be for September, but that's the goal that we're setting. Hopefully, is that we'll know by September where the funding is going to come from and how it's going to be. That might be a little bit, you know, wishful thinking to have it by then, but that's what we'd like to see.
So I know that this is a workshop. Would you like to hear from members?
I want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that I have written an email to received as well. I couldn't get through the night without waking up and it's hitting my head, you know, all my thoughts, so I just spent a couple hours just kind of poured out my heart. I do believe that corner side needs to be the driving catalyst for the entire vision happen. Then talking about the hall and conference center, anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000, which was like 5,000. Definitely need something smaller scale. There's so much, to fill that with meetings and the connectivity. And you asked such a good question when drawing what hotels, what they would ask is, where can my guests walk to? And when you think about the hotel itself, it's like, okay, we obviously don't want a low-scale hotel. We want something mostly like Marriott or Sheraton, we'll get it Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton, but we can definitely get something that is upscale. But the guest has got to have something that is inviting. And I know I try to paint that picture in my letter. What is going to be unique is going to draw people to Homestead. And it's the key. It really is. And what happens across the street on that corner has to complement this. Got to complement whatever goes into the old City Hall site. I don't think we need residential. It can happen along Chrome, like you saw in Naples. It happens along those other cities that I've mentioned before. In Wheaton and Glen Ellen, and having the mixed use. It's beautiful with the brick. It's so attractive. It's so exciting. But whatever you choose, don't get me wrong. I love the idea of the Topgolf and Ice King Regional. Those are very common. We need something that will make them drive to from the Keys, from Ocean Ridge, from Doral, from Coral Gables. What is going to drive them to Homestead in the day? And just really, we could find room for a Topgolf. We could find room, hopefully, for the other wonderful activities that families enjoy and that we need. But this particular attraction has to be unlike anything else. And that's kind of what I painted the legacy part. But whatever it may be, I just know what I would do if I was the fairy godmother. But it will take, an investment upon the city. The developers have got to. And at the same time, I heard a question, what businesses will draw local teams on to the professional in the downtown area. Maybe with all this happening, big law firms will come. Tech companies will come. And they'll see it. They'll want to have their people live here and buy those luxury apartments. Not luxury, but, nicer apartments. And hang out and live and work locally. So, if those are letters, you guys forwarded to people that want to see it, but I just poured out my heart. And just for the attractions downtown, you said them all. We all know, art galleries, the coffee shops, the decor stores, the little boutiques that, you know, women and children can go to and do, the cycle shop, the ice cream store. The list goes on, but we gotta have, I do believe, and I think, I mean, there's probably hotels. I think the architect guy, Mr. Ballet, said that they already had somebody very interested in building the hotel conference center. I don't know who that was, but I haven't heard. But they gotta know what Compton's gonna do next to it. So you gotta have those conversations.
It's interesting. When you start to forecast, like, so, Jeff said, the hotel's gonna wanna know what. So when they started building the hotels just east of the turnpike, there was nothing there. They built two of them. And then everything came with it, right? So you have the Outback Steakhouse there now, you have the Starbucks there, you have whatever else in that little strip center. Then Oasis built up across the street, the public came, you know, all that stuff is trying to evolve. And I agree that there has to be some destination, but that's why we build the whole thing there. There will be destinations there.
So
The lady group, well, the attraction is going to be either if it's a hotel in the conference center, right? They're coming there for business, they're coming there for a trade show, they're coming.
No, I understand that. But it's what is the appeal that what is, you know, when you know you go somewhere, you know, are you going to go to see that particular like Bayfront Park or
The iconic.
Yeah, what is the iconic thing?
We have a lake there, can we do a paddle boat thing? I don't know.
No, forget the lake.
I mean, we're not blessed with being on the water.
Walk
Yeah.
through and just, I don't know, who has been to Millennial Park? Anybody here? Chicago, never been to Millennial? You've been there, city manager? Come on, you know, I mean, people spend all day there. It's like unbelievable. Interactive fountains, obviously the bean, the big cloud.
The fountains are
24 acres. 24 acres. Yeah, but no, you can get investors to partner with you. I promise you. If you really set that up and design it, and it's one of a kind, you know, a mini version, they will come. A pavilion there for, you know, concerts. I'll say concerts, whatever. It is unbelievable. Go one weekend, especially right now when it's getting warmer. I tell you, you'll understand the Sheridan Resort right there on the river.
No, I agree. The difference there is,
North Carolina, Asheville.
yeah,
Have you been to the Cabrillo Hotel? Rooftop bar. You've never been to Asheville, downtown Asheville. Okay, so the Blanca family owns it. They're from Miami. And that, you've probably been there. It's done in the Cuban style. It is so cool. And then you can just walk to everything because, you know, Asheville is probably charming. But between now and in these next workshops, please just take a weekend and travel and go see it. I wish I could get a jet taking time, but I couldn't afford that. You got to see it. You got to walk it. And you'll see why people from all over the world go there. And nobody in Miami has that. Nobody. And they're all fighting for, you know, the pedestrians, the consumers.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I do want to expand real quick, if you don't mind, on what you're saying about the interactive fountains. Those are some of the things that I enjoyed with my family when I went to visit the Westmont Beach project. Having a lot of open courtyards, heavily, you know, beautifully landscaped areas to enjoy around the development is important to me. We didn't discuss it as like a wish list, but that was the part of the attractions, being able to enjoy while you're outside. Another place I visited is in Virginia. I think it's called Pentagon City.
Crystal City.
So the brick, the courtyard, they didn't have an interactive water fountain, but the kids were having a fantastic time. We spent hours and hours and got a little hungry, you know how to come to your house, you got a nice drink. So that outdoor, the easiness of being able to stay outside and enjoy and feed off of those stores and those restaurants is very important.
And there's gotta be, and I've read somewhere, maybe it's my girls, about parks. There's a lot of money for parks. I think there is. I don't know, there's something to look into for sure. It's not in that category, but.
That's not what we're hearing from our grants writers. Yeah, the government doesn't really fund parks, which is one of the reasons we changed from Homestead Sports Complex to regional park, so that public and private money can go in there. But if it's strictly parkland.
Where would the developers, I mean, there's a way to have them partner and name it after them.
Well, that's I think, that's what we do. We're doing this exercise, and eventually we're going to put all these things into the box. And we'll put it out there, and then we'll come up with, developers, incentives, and even like when we made it Urban One, they offered us an acre and a half Central Park, right? At the end it was gone, but that's what they offered at the beginning, so. Is there anything like that?
I guess a couple of comments. Maybe on the height, some things like, it depends on what all you guys have in mind that you're going to put in that box. You got a lot of room, you got 16 acres. I would, when you're negotiating with Flanagan, that's about 2.5 acres, that's going to take it out of.
It'll be about 12.
About 12.
Yeah, they still need, they're going to be shared agreements, like, look at stuff like that, and then you don't have parking, but you're going to start ripping off that and getting in.
That was a not, they needed their own designated parking. They claim 12,000 customers a week. They have 120 of their own parking spaces.
Laws over there.
That could be 2 acres. Yeah. That could be 2 acres. And they get it to
hotel,
they're going to spread it all. Okay, gross.
Get a couple hundred at least, back off somewhere. Obviously, if you want to see a real true mixed use, you don't have a choice yet, that residential in there and all that. You know what I mean? Just things to consider. I'm thinking about it, I don't think I think that deeper, I don't think it's 30 feet, actually, if there's going to be a water feature, I wouldn't put it out there in the corner, I'd move that acre around. If you're going to put stuff in the box over there on that corner right there, I would have my guys get into the proposal, I think you should kind of ask for it. A really cool entrance feature there on the corner, City Homestead, welcome to. It's kind of like, I know that we're already in the City Homestead, like 15th Street, but that's really kind of like the heart of the home and Campbell right there. You got, Harris Field, but right there you can do some really cool shit stuff. There's like something cool there, like really fun City Homestead, something that, not just like a entrance feature.
That pump station, sorry, Jason, that pump station or whatever they put there, corner, can that be moved?
Oh yeah, you can always move it if you have the money.
With enough money,
If you have money, you can move this. You can move City Hall if you have money.
That put that nasty looking thing.
Chain link
Yeah.
Our dearly departed public works director
They allow
apparently never commented on the plans that.
I think
We didn't do that. That was done.
that pump station is been a long-term pump station. Yes, a sanitary sewer pump station. Was actually relocated to the present location. Listen, if you have close to $2 to $3 million in your back pocket,
No problem, man. I'll write a check.
pump station.
I'll go buy our Mega Million ticket.
So if we could start to then bring this back to couple thoughts, summary.
Just one sec. I want to know from the legal side, any input to this conversation before we begin the wrap-up stage? Huh?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the discussion is really on the conception. And so if we get into the
I think that's what was intended really today was
So
conceptual.
if you look at the agenda item, it was clearly for seeking direction from council. We have a clear-cut direction to explore commercial aspect with minimal density in terms of residential. So now you have a clear direction. Pivot from what the concept is today and move into some kind of destination legacy iconic project.
And list the amenities that we're talking about, right? So they don't come in, well, what do you guys really want? Well, give us the fun family stuff, right? Give us a pub or two or three, whatever. Give us that nightlife, right? Give us maybe a rooftop lounge on top of the convention.
The public space.
Yeah, or open space, you know, for gatherings. The water features, you know, whatever those things are. I've never really seen them, but seen at Disney World where they spit out and
Yeah, Alien and the other thing.
One last comment.
ice skating rink, bowling alleys, all of that stuff. Just put it out there.
Put it out there. We have
Top golf,
everything.
miniature golf, bring it on.
Let me ask a quick question. You guys, is it okay to reach out to the remaining elected officials and seek their input before we go so far?
Sure. I mean,
Well, like I asked last night, the summary of what the discussion was and what the amenities moving forward might look like, right? And
and the aversion to.
can you put the schedule back up that you have laid out for us?
Yeah, I don't think that's exactly the one we're gonna follow.
I don't think so either, but I just wanted to see.
But the concept has changed. So.
Yeah.
Give another idea or example if anyone has been to Atlanta, Georgia, the Palm City Market. It's an old Sears factory that they converted, and it has minimal flat rentals, rooftops that have an elevator that you have to pay in order to go up there. It has miniature golf. It has on the rooftop. It has very on one side an exclusive restaurant where people go and have wine and underneath inside of the building they have a big large opening where they have all these pocket restaurants and they're all full all the time. Yeah. Those are pretty interesting concepts and it's definitely a big one.
Okay.
So April, May, it looks like would be the cool, and then you can go out and do the rest of it, I think. We have that one more finalized. We have that one more.
I think we need to go back, digest what has been discussed today, and come back to another workshop.
And let's not forget that out in the development world, the fact that we have all but struck a deal with Flanagan's is, I think, very positive.
Oh, yeah. And we want to be ahead of the D.L. Horton project, too, on North Canal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they're going to be doing basically the same thing that we're trying to do on the corner. The shops, the commercial, the mixed use, but they're putting in 1,000 units. Or
The sales center?
No. The across from BJ's, Alger's.
Yeah. Sendero.
Senderos, yeah. Sendero Landings.
I don't see a lot of dirt turning out there.
Not yet.
I will not have to relocate out your favorite utility pole.
So there,
The electrical pole, the one by the street.
yeah,
You don't have to.
we're gonna have to fix that. Well, when they widen the road, they're gonna have to move it anyways. Somebody widens that road.
Yeah.
Huh? That's FTL line, right? Those FTL lines?
Yeah.
Are those our lines?
I think that's ours, right?
Those are our
You
transmissions.
park out on
The big concrete.
The one right on the
poles.
corner of Lucy and 6th Avenue?
by the treatment plants.
Across,
That's ours.
those big poles are ours?
Yes.
They got to be moved for the road widening anyway.
What's that?
They have to live in the media.
So the south side of,
That's not.
okay, so
This thing is just great.
Call Melissa, they need more money.
yeah, I get it. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we'll see when that happens.
What I also don't want, I want to tell you guys that I don't want to. I don't want tall buildings right up to the sidewalk.
On US 1?
Yeah.
Either street.
I want it to be as kind of.
Set the back as far as possible, yeah.
I talked a lot.
Agreed.
About like the pyramid effect.
Mhm.
If we have to go to 4 to 5 feet, 5 stories, 4 stories, we can't even.
So are we trying to set height?
Huh?
Are
No,
we
no,
try
no.
to set height before we determine use. Because hotel
Doesn't want-
operators 5 feet, 5 stories high.
I think the analogy she's trying to make is the multi-story apartment buildings that are right up on the sidewalk up and down US 1. That's not the look that we want. We want the height to be set back so it looks shorter.
So that in Dubai, they are like almost 50 to 100 feet setback. I'm like, you gotta have land to do that.
So what I'd like to do then, no, go ahead. Recapping a couple of things and thoughts, obviously what from the CRA side, I'm leaving thinking of course, as we speak more specific to our downtown, Chrome. I question often, is it the chicken or the egg? Do we not have a lot of people because we don't have a lot of restaurants and activity, or do we not have a lot of activity because we don't have the people, right? So there's the combination. So I want to make sure that we're being mindful of that as we go forward. We have to be sure that in this list of all the things that we want, that it makes sense, right? Someone wants to do and they're willing to do it. So as we take this back and kind of rework what this program is that captures the things that you want, I do like the idea of like taking a little broader look then and how is what we're doing helping also the broader downtown, those categories, and also, like to be sure that we're getting Kevin, our market folks in here to see if there's other things that we can bring as options that supplement this, if there's a gap in terms of that profitability for the developer. So I think that's the direction we have. Barry, am I?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. With also the additional comment that perhaps when we're talking to hotel operators, Kevin, if I understand council clearly, the sky is the limit.
Well, I don't know about that, but the hotel would be, I think we'd have to really consider what they need
Yes.
to be successful.
We have leeway on an iconic non-residential component.
With a rooftop lounge.
Let them come back and tell us how high they want to build.
The thing about the hotel, kind of what Barry's saying, thought about it, do this chicken and the egg. The hotel's a little bit different than that.
Yeah.
Because we have to look at the conference demand and what that's going to be. But you can support a hotel because we've already established the market space for the hotel room. And you can use the proximity to the keys, the national parks, the other things that are already out here are enough to justify a hotel investment if everything can pencil out. And so you have the ability to do that and then use the hotel to put back to other things around it, just like we're talking about out at the Turnpike, and really fill in all of that space between the side and over towards downtown, and even get the upscaling of the use from itself.
Yeah.
There's a recent
Traffic counts? Yeah, we can get to traffic count. FDOT actually has an updated traffic count, I think on a quarterly basis. When we're discussing with them about the cut through on US 1, they just told us off the cut, don't do it. We always have it. They can get it.
So, and the other thing to think about also, Florida City closed down their campground
Correct.
to do something similar to.
Similar to what that's supposed to be their city.
It's moving forward. It's on hold, right? Sergio passed away and
Oh, that was who had it?
yeah,
That was a Pino project.
Okay. I just want to be ahead of some of these projects.
Amen.
I'd rather be out in front of those instead of
Competing.
competing with them.
Okay. So any comments? Any additional comments, folks?
Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
This is what we wanted out of today. So
Yeah, Jonas?
for you all. So all right.
I told Milo 12 stories. What 12, man?
Yeah, it's been mad at that.
General?
Talking about my
Oh my God.
Sure you got a good deal on Color Ridge. Color Bay. Yes, ma'am. I was in the house.
But you have It doesn't have to be.
Derek, you can say James, you're right.
But that's
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.webex.com.